Good evening. I'm Band Corporal Mark Upton. We're just going to wait a few minutes for some more people to join. I'll just explain a little bit how this session is going to work. Please ask lots of questions. The questions will be answered at the end by Corporal Amy Phillips. Good evening. Good evening, Netherton boy. Hello, hope you're all well. Thanks for joining. Okay, I'm Band Corporal Mark Upton. I'm an instructor at the Royal Marines School of Music. A little bit about me. I've been in the Royal Marines nearly 25 years in the band service. I've been an instructor twice at the Royal Marines School of Music. I've performed many high-profile solos all around the world and at the Albert Hall. I'm also endorsed by Eclipse Trumpets UK and Padovani Mouthpieces and Robinson's Remedies. Today I wanted to share with you some useful tips on how to prepare for auditions, exams, and also preparing for solos that you may have in your band, and for you to really get the most out of the musical playing situations. I'll be talking for about 15-20 minutes, and then I'll be inviting Band Corporal Amy Phillips from the Royal Marine Band Service recruiting team, and we're going to answer some questions. So please get typing your questions in the comments, and we'll get through them as much as we can afterwards. Okay. All of these three topics, the exam prep, the audition prep and the solo prep, they can all be really nerve-wracking situations to put yourself in. One thing I'll say, preparation is everything, especially if you suffer from nerves. It can be quite daunting going into an exam or an audition, or even going out the front and playing a solo. One thing I would say is, one thing that can really help you is to regulate your breathing, and just really try to relax. And if you put in the preparation and the work, then you're going to have nothing to worry about. So the first topic we'll talk about then is going to be audition preparation. So this could be auditions for college, auditions for the Royal Marines, auditions to get into a band. There's so many different musical auditions that you can have, but preparation is key for any of the auditions. Preparation, I guess, shows a level of respect for the music. The more prepared you are, it will show how dedicated and serious you are about being there and wanting to pass the audition. Yeah, when it comes to picking music for auditions, I definitely advise you to ask your teacher to help pick some of the literature. Your teacher probably will have been through the process of what you're going through, and they can advise and sort of coach you through the process. Try not to pick music that's too hard, but if you've got a good teacher, then they should really help you with that. Some colleagues will have a different audition syllabus. Make sure you read through carefully what you need to prepare for this. So say you're auditioning for a college, your music college, everything's going to be online for you to read the syllabus of what you need to play, what's going to be expected. Don't just sort of jump in without reading it and email them, hassling them, asking questions when everything's there. You want to make a really good kind of example that you're serious and you're reading through everything and you understand everything, and you sort of play everything that you're meant to play and prepare for. Get ahead of the game, do your research. It will go a long way in your favour. Also, first impressions are key. Smile, be polite when you're going for the audition. That also goes a long way. Also, something else to bear in mind is to think about some of the questions that you may be asked at the audition. These may include why you want to study or join the place you're auditioning for, Maybe you want to go there because of a certain thing that they're offering. Maybe you really like the area. I don't know. You know, you need to think about why you want to study there. Also, your musical background. You know, this also requires quite a bit of thought. You know, think about, you know, actually engaging in a conversation with the people on the panel. You know, if they ask you a question about your musical background, you know, go as far back as you can. You know, what got you into music? What got you into music? Also, you know, the simple things of the bands you've played with, any exams you've done, any awards that you've got, anything like that, any, you know, useful information that they can see that you're really serious about the music. They might also ask you about your musical interests as well, and what type of music you like. And obviously the big one is, what music do you listen to? And, you know, if you're serious about music and you want to be a professional musician, you know, you need to be listening to music every single day. And, you know, I'm not talking about putting music on while you're chatting and doing other things. This is proper dedicated listening, you know, sitting down with headphones on, really soaking in what you need to listen to prepare yourself. They may ask you what you think you need to improve with your own playing as well. So, you know, be honest, but also try and sell yourself as well. Make sure you're not late for the audition and you're looking smart, and you have your music or your piano accompaniment music if required. And the night before, just double check everything. For Royal Marine Band Service auditions, we look for an open attitude towards learning. So, you know, be really positive. Play a piece that can show you in the best light. And we're looking for musicality. You know, try to be knowledgeable on your instrument. Okay, if you've got any questions about that, again, just type them in the comments down below, and we will answer them at the end when Band Corporal Amy Phillips comes on. Okay, the next topic is exam preparation. So this is slightly different to audition preparation. And one thing I would say is, you know, if you're booking in for an exam, check out the latest syllabus. It can be found online. You know, your teacher should also be able to advise you there. There are some really easy things to do for the exam prep to really bump up your score. You know, if you get a merit, you know, just a few little tiny tips here just to push you over to that distinction mark. So again, choose suitable pieces with your teacher, maybe contrasting pieces. To show you off in different aspects of your playing. You know, you might want to play a classical piece, followed by maybe a technical piece, followed by something maybe slightly jazzy, just so you can show off those different styles. And again, with exam prep, make sure, if you can, that your teacher can give you a few minutes of oral training and sight reading. Obviously, this is really important. There are oral apps online that you can download to help with that, and there are also sight reading books. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to share my screen. So I have a sight reading example on there, and for the sight reading, you know, it can be fairly easy marks if you follow this process. So you look at the sight reading. You can see the key signature, okay? We can see we're in B flat major. To confirm that, we can look at the last note. Normally, 7 times out of 10, that would be the tonic. Sometimes, obviously, it wouldn't be. But the other possible key it could be in is G minor. So look for a G at the start and the end. Then look at the time signature. The time signature. And with this, you really need a sense of pulse, and it's really important that you can maybe even subdivide as you're playing through. Okay, so it's in 4/4, and it's andante, and I'm just going to look through now, and it's piano. So you know, you need to think about the dynamics. Then later on it goes to forte, then diminuendo diminuendos down to piano with a crescendo up to forte and then a subito piano in the last bar. Now, that now builds an overall picture in your mind of the piece. So, you know, as you're playing through, you can try and remember that, the dynamics. Then I also want you to look for the slurs, the short notes, the long notes, all those kind of articulations that, you know, just those extra couple of things, if you can pull out for the exam, you know, will give you those extra marks. So, you know, it's quite easy points in a bag, really. So that is the sight reading. Let's see if I can come off this. Okay, good. So, you know, if you don't have the sight reading books, you know, if you're buying the books with all the exam music in, there's so much music in there. You can use that. Just pull out little passages, or, you know, a line at a time, a couple of lines each day, and just practice your sight reading. Try and go through it. And it is one of those things that is a skill that the more you do, the better you get at it. And that's the same with the oral. The more you do, the better you get at it. And, you know, the more you can do for your exam prep, you know, the better marks you're going to get. So then we'll move on to the pieces. The pieces are the main real bulk of the marks. When you're practicing, I'd recommend getting used to playing them all the way through without stopping or hesitating or putting gaps in. You know, try and make the music flow as much as you can. Try and phrase everything. The harder grades are more demanding from a stamina point of view. So this is, you know, a really good tip. You know, if you're around the grade 7, grade 8 mark diploma standard, you know, the demand on the chops for, you know, to get through the concertos is quite difficult. So yes, practice them, pull things apart, but, you know, at the end of the session, just go through and run it top to bottom. So in the exam, take your time between pieces, take your time between everything, try and relax. You know, you're probably going to be nervous, you know, you're probably going to be a little bit anxious, you know, you want to do well. Just some simple breathing exercises to try and slow your heartbeat down, okay? Just that's all it takes, just a couple of times in between pieces. Don't feel like you just need to jump straight into the next thing, okay? Next then, the dreaded scales, okay? Everybody for some reason hates scales. Scales are incredibly good for technique and understanding of music. Scales play an important part beyond the exam process. You know, to develop that technical ability and skill to be able to run around the instrument and master your instrument. You just wouldn't be able to do it if you didn't know you practice your scales. So, you know, these are easy points in the bag, really. One thing I say to all my students when they're going into exams is, you know, take a deep breath when you get asked the scale. Don't jump straight in, okay? That without thinking about it. You know, if they ask you a scale, just process what they've said. Take your time, deep breath. Try and think about the scale. I try and finger it through. I'll go da 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 da. Okay, and then I'll come up and I'll play the scale. And if you go through that process in the exam, you know, it shows that you're being diligent and you're getting it right every time. You know, there's nothing worse than jumping in and just making silly mistakes that can be avoided. You know, again, you know, just bumping that score up just a little bit more. The scales pot, this is how I would practice scales. So I did this as a child. My parents were both trumpet players, and they did this scales pot with me. I think it's quite common practice, or scales cards or anything like that. And you've got a good pot and a bad pot, and basically go through the scales, pick them all out, or you write them all out first for your exam, and pick them, play it. If it's not right first time, put it in the bad pot. If it's good, put it in the good pot. Then by the end of that session, you're going to have, hopefully not too many, but you're going to have an amount of scales in the bad pot. Okay, and they're the ones now that you absolutely know that they're not there first time. So you really kind of need to practice those ones. as well. Don't leave the good ones until the day before the exam either, because you still need to keep them going. You know, your scales need practice every day. Okay, and you know, get your friends or your parents to test you. You know, there's no harm in that. And remember, when you're going in for an exam, that, you know, the examiners, no one wants you to fail, and give a good performance as you can. Okay, now we'll look at solo preparation briefly. This is an area that I've got quite a lot of expertise in. I stand at the front and I do a lot of solos due to my category. And these are a few steps that I do every time I'm asked to do something. So when I'm asked to perform a solo with a band or a pianist, or, you know, whatever, the first thing is do your research. Okay, find original recordings. You know, it's so important that if you're trying to create something, or trying to do something that, you know, in a style of, I don't know, Baroque trumpet or Stravinsky, that you're absolutely on the money with the sound, the style, you know, the vibrato, and how do you do that? How do you get that sound concept in your head? And it's all from listening. You know, dedicated listening, maybe some transcribing. You know, I've done a lot of transcribing jazz solos. You know, I pick players that I absolutely love. You know, Miles Davis, Harry James, Louis Armstrong, Maynard Ferguson, all those great trumpet players, and I emulate what they're playing, and I copy, and I try and get it inside, and I try and play. And in my head, I am that person that I'm trying to imitate, you know, trying to get into the head and the minds of these great players. And also, you know, if you don't know what sound you want to create in here, then you've got no way of getting that out ever, you know. So, you know, lots of listening, some transcribing is always good. Find out if you need to perform the solo with or without music. You know, that's very important. You know, there's nothing worse than getting to a gig and you've not learnt it off by memory, and all of a sudden there's no stand at the front and they're telling you you've got to do it from memory. You know, that can really throw you. So, you know, make sure you know, and you prepare for that. When performing a solo, again, you're going to feel nervous. You know, the breathing, control your breathing when you walk out, and just try and be as relaxed as you can. And another thing to do is when you're actually practicing in your room or your music room or wherever you practice, try and visualize. Visualize has been a massive help for me. I'll visualize the audience. I always visualize at the Albert Hall because that's where I've done most of my big solos. And I can see the lights coming in, I can see pitch black in the auditorium, and I put myself under that pressure to play perfectly every single time. So visualize that, visualize how sort of nervous you're going to feel. Practice trying to get it under control. It's a good way to combat nerves. I do believe in one of the videos later on, Band Corporal Sanders, is going to do a video on nerves, so that's one to watch out for in the future. And enjoy what you're playing. You know, the audience will know if you're enjoying it or if you're terrified. And, you know, if you don't want to be there, then the audience certainly isn't going to want to be there. And, you know, if they're paying good money to come and hear you play, you want to give a good performance. You know, for my recording of Trumpet Legacy, I had 5 pieces that I had to memorize completely with 5 different styles of music, 12 minutes worth to learn, and I transcribed a lot, and I really tried to get those sounds of the players in my head. So, you know, each section I had to compartmentalize, and, you know, 1 minute I was Louis Armstrong, then Miles Davis and Harry James, then Maynard Ferguson, then Dizzy Gillespie. You know, and it's a tricky thing to do. But, you know, listening is the key. And anyone that's serious about music or getting into the music business, if you're not listening, you know, you're doing something wrong. You know, you really need to listen. I can't stress how important that is. So some general advice then for all these three topics is to take risks in the performance with your dynamics, your phrasing, turning corners, holding pauses, all the style. You know, really start to take risks with the performance and communicate musically with your audience. You know, practice efficiently. You know, if you practice quickly, you can't, well, you do, you internalize all the mistakes. So, you know, next time you come to playing it, you're just going to be playing it wrong every time. So go slow in the practice. You know, make sure everything's right and methodical, and practice with a metronome. If you've got technical passages, it's a really great way to practice. You know, I'd say anyone practicing should be practicing with a metronome, because again, you get to understand the time and where the beat sits and where things sit. So that's really good. Also a practice diary. If you're doing Clark studies or Arbin studies and you're practicing with a metronome, keep a diary. You know, push those tempos. You might not be able to reach the tempos that are marked at the top. Do your best, and each day that you practice, you know, you should be able to get a few BPM up on the last session. And you actually look back over the last 2 weeks of practice, and you've gone from, say, 70 beats a minute to 140 beats per minute. And you can see all that progress, and it makes you feel good. And, you know, it releases all those endorphins that make you then want to practice more. And, you know, it's so great to be able to do that. If you're struggling with technical passages and, you know, you're working on a piece, don't be afraid. You don't have to just work on those pieces. You know, if there's a double tonguing or triple tonguing bit or some slurring bits that just aren't working for you, you know, just go back, get the Arbin out, get any books out that are going to help with that, and do those alongside with your practice. You also need to be able to self-critique. Don't rely on your teacher once a week to critique for you. Play, analyse, make sure you're really listening to the sound throughout your practice sessions. It's also great to record the practice sessions and listen back, but listen to absolutely everything you do. And if it's not right, you know, fix it. There's a reason. And if you've got the knowledge, you know, with a good teacher, you should be able to fix those issues within your weekly practice. So then you can make so much more improvement before you go to your next lesson. Have practice goals for each session. You know, if I'm heavily practicing something, I absolutely give myself goals. You know, that by that day I want that day I want that, and the next day I want that, and then hopefully that piece should be cracked in 3 days because I've made smart, achievable goals. You know, just plan what you want to do. Don't just open the book and just play through stuff randomly, you know, because you're never going to get any better doing that. Don't always practice the piece from the beginning to the end. Break down passages and phrases, you know, practice efficiently and practice at different speeds. You know, practice slow, get the mechanics working nice and slowly, get all the slurs and everything working nicely. Then take it over tempo, you know, so that normal tempo that you want to play at just seems really nice and easy and comfortable. Make sure your trumpet is in good order. You know, this goes for auditions and exams. The valves are oiled up. This could save any embarrassment, you know, as you go in, or even, you know, worse, if you're kind of doing a solo performance. It's important to be able to maintain your instrument, you know, on a daily basis. I'm not saying go and do an instrument repair course or anything like that, but basic things, checking the springs, oiling the valves up, making sure the slides are working properly, and the mouthpiece is clean. You know, that's good hygiene as well. You know, clean your instrument sort of once a month. All those good things, you know, it can save any embarrassment. And, you know, if you do these things on a regular basis, you know, you're going to have no problems there. Don't just don't just decide after you've never done it before, 5 minutes before you go into your exam, that you're going to oil the valves up and it all goes horribly wrong, and then you can't go into your exam. So, keep on top of it. Make sure you know what you're doing, and if you don't know, ask your teacher. And if you require any mutes for your performances, make sure they're fitted correctly. If you need to shave or file down the corks, there's nothing worse than looking at a trumpet player that's just bought a new cut mute and it's hanging about that far out the bell because, he's not fitted it properly. So make sure all your mutes fit. They should be sort of half an inch from the bell on the cups. There's so many different brands. I won't go into it, but just spend some time and researching. There's lots of stuff online on that, and make sure you have a good warm up before any performance. And the warm up should be part of your daily routine. I think the last Instagram thing that I did on here was about my 4-part warm up. So make sure you have a good warm up, and the day before race day or the exam, don't overcook it. Don't play too much on the day of the exam either. Just get the blood going, do your normal warm up, some tonguing exercises, some flexibilities, and kind of leave it there. Okay, I am going to invite Band Corporal Amy Phillips. Let's see if we can get her on. Oh, band. There we go. I hope this is the right one. Okay, I've just... there you are. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. You had a good day?
Yeah, not bad.
So I'm just going to tell the viewers, I rang Amy earlier and she was in the middle of painting and decorating. So did you get all your stuff done?
I did. I'm still covered in white paint, but I got it done. So it's
fine. Good. Excellent. Brilliant.
We've got a few questions. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Are you ready? I'll just fire away.
Yeah.
So we had a couple that came in before we started from stories. So one of them was, do you get to play jazz? Very much. Obviously, we're in lots of different ensembles the way our job works. Do you want to explain how that works for you as a solo cornet player?
Yeah, so there's a new jazz syllabus at the Royal School of Music, and I actually run it with the professor. So yeah, we do teach it, and yeah, we do get lots of jazz gigs coming in. I've played jazz all over really, and big band stuff. Big band gigs. It's yeah, we do jazz.
Cool. We've had one question come in just right now, which I'm going to answer straight away. So when are the next auditions? There are auditions in June and in July. So if anyone's looking to try and get on those auditions and hasn't started an application yet, now is the time. It takes a little while. There's a few hoops to jump through first. So if you're wanting to join in 2021, you need to audition in June and July. So you need to start an application now. We'll go back to some of these, and I can see there's some other questions coming in, so I'll try and get to all of them. Another question that came in advance was, what is your one piece of advice, your one golden nugget for people auditioning for the band service?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Play as well as you can. Play, be as well prepared as you can, and we're looking for musicality. Preparation is key. Yeah, I could go on, but you said one.
Yeah, one. And when can we next hear you play? Was that came in. So we've got some stuff coming up.
So I'm performing a solo on MFM this year that's getting live streamed. So yeah, I'm not going to give too much away, but you'll see me playing a solo there. I might even be in a funny outfit. So I'm going to keep the mystery.
Yeah. So obviously we're filming MFM in the normal venue, aren't we?
The Albert Hall. Yeah, it's being recorded week after next, I believe.
Yeah, and then once, I don't know if we've released the live stream date, but once we've got the date for when the live stream will go, people can watch that online, can't they?
Yeah.
Cool. This is one for me to answer. So what medical problems can restrict you in joining? The main thing that we have to caveat here is that we're not medical professionals. So we are purely musicians, which means that essentially we can't give you the right advice for that. So your best bet is to start an audition and then to start an application, and then you'll be told whether or not you've passed the medical part. It's difficult for us to give you the right answer, and if we get it wrong, then we get in trouble. So if you think there's a reason why you can't join medically, start an application and you'll be told the answer. Hopefully that makes sense. We've got a few questions. Is there a theory test on audition? I was going to ask you to just cover briefly oral, sight reading, theory, scales. For the band service, you talked about it for an exam, and we talked about auditioning, but as part of our audition, we do that within your musical assessment. Do you want to explain sort of how it works for us?
Yeah, so the musical assessment, how I do it with Professor Elaine Close, who's the trumpet professor at the school. You come in, we'll have a chat with you. It's it's nice and relaxed. It's a nice environment. We try to put you at ease straight away, so you can play your best, because that's ideally what we want. You'd come in, you will play some pieces, do our sort of prepared piece. We'd check some basic oral skills, just that you can sing. And we'd just ask you a bit about your background and what got you into music and what you want to inspire to be, as a musician. The sort of theory side of things, that's done by the academic instructors. I don't know too much about that, if I'm honest. I don't get involved in that side of things, but yeah, then they obviously have their interviews and all that other stuff that you obviously know about.
Yeah, so the theory, when we can have people visit the School of Music for audition, we used to do like a written theory test. Obviously, for the whole of this year and the whole of last year, they're virtual auditions, so there isn't currently a theory test, but we do sort of ask people to be at least grade 5 theory kind of standard.
Yeah. And that's been strange for us as well, doing these auditions virtually. We've it's definitely been a learning curve, but it's been good, it's the world's changing.
Yeah.
But we can wait to get people back to school properly,
Yeah, I think it's good for people to see what the School of Music's like. It's quite a unique place. So.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was a really, really nice sunny day yesterday at the school, and it was just lovely. The green grass on the lawn, the sun hitting down on the parade square. It was really nice.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Yeah, and for me, I studied music at university before I joined up, and just having your own practice room for the entire time you're there was just such a novelty to me. I used to have to book a practice room like 2 weeks in advance, and I'd book a 40-minute slot, and then half the time someone else was using it anyway when I turned up to try and do some practice. But just have your own practice room for the entire time you're in training is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We've had a question, can you audition on 2 instruments for the Royal Marines Band Service? And I'm sure you'll add to this, Mark, but you should audition on every instrument that you already play. And when we have people come and audition in person, we actually audition them on instruments you don't even play.
Yeah, so they come round and they'll go around the instructors and the professors. So, for instance, if you play trumpet and you play the trumpet, you still get assessed. We'll send you to the French horn instructor. We're not saying you're going to be a French horn player, or we're going to, make you play French horn or anything like that. We'll send you to the buglers for, the bugle, and possibly a wind, a couple of reed instruments, just to see, what you're like, because some people, may not be as competent as some on other instruments. So, if there's no vacancies for that instrument as well, and they can't get in on that category, a lot of people still really want to join the band service, because it's a great career, and they'll be offered, they could be offered, another instrument, and that obviously comes down to the written assessment of going around what I just spoke about, So, you know, it's that, yeah, they can audition for two. They'll probably end up auditioning for quite a few, you know.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And then when we're talking about categories, I don't know, have you got a good way to sum up? So you've talked about your category, so you're a solo cornet player.
Yeah.
Can you talk briefly about how our pairings work? So if you're a trumpet player and you continue to play trumpet, there's sort of a couple of categories you could go into then if you weren't going to be a solo cornet player?
Yeah, so the oldest category is obviously the cornet and violin. So you know, you play the violin and the orchestral stuff, cornet in the wind band and the marching band. Then we've got cornet and vocal, which is, you know, a fairly new category. It's only a few years. No, it's probably longer than that now, actually. A few
3 or 4 years, I think.
years, yeah. And again, yeah, you'll be singing in the function band. You know, depending on what you sing and your style. You know, you could be doing opera, you know, Last Night at the Proms, or you know, you could be singing Car Wash by Rose Royce, or you know, there's so many different genres with singing. You know, big band as well. You know, there's some nice solo pieces that actually we've done at the Albert Hall. You know, with vocals. So yeah, the vocal category, I would say I'm not a vocalist, but I could imagine it's quite a challenging category. And then we've got cornet and guitar, which, yeah, cornet and guitar, that's another good one. You know, you get to play the cornet majority of the time, but then you get to shed the guitar, you know, for the fun stuff, you know, the jazz, the function band, the big band. What we're finding as well is people are getting to bands and they're setting little function bands up themselves and going out gigging and that sort of thing. So, you know, the vocal and the guitar, you know, can be a really fun category to do. And, you know, you're getting paid to learn, you know, which is the great thing about the Royal Music School of Music.
Yeah, I think that's worth noting, is that we don't expect people to necessarily play that second instrument already. So we'll teach people, we'll provide the instruments, we provide the tuition while you're in training for if you're put on any of those other ones.
Yeah.
We've got a couple more questions. How many paces should people prepare on each instrument? So like my advice normally is maybe 2 contrasting pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some people come with 1 concerto. Then they've normally got something in their bag. If we ask them, you know, have you got anything else, they'll pull something out. But yeah, 2 contrasting pieces are good.
Cool. And then we've got another one along the same lines. Do the pieces have to be the full piece, or can you do sections of a certain piece? Certainly, I know I prepared 2 full contrasting pieces, and actually they only heard parts of it, but it was good I had prepared all of it. So what would your advice be there?
My advice would be just to come as best prepared as you can. You know, we want to hear you play. You know, we want you to feel comfortable. Don't come in feeling sort of stressed because, you know, you haven't learned the whole piece. You know, preparation is key, but or it's not necessarily in the ideal world gonna happen every time. So, you know, just advise, just come and play. You know, just come and play what you can play, and we'll assess it from there. You know.
Cool. I've got one more question here. So if anyone watching has any extra questions, anything you've not asked yet, please start putting them in there, because otherwise we will sign off. Have you got any tips for a bugle player? So obviously it sort of crosses over some of what you do.
Yeah.
Any tips for buglers?
Bugle player, yeah, just get to grips with the fundamentals and the basic technique. You know, if you're wanting to join, or even if you're not wanting to join, you know, I would say get as good teacher as you can afford, and you know, just go back to the basics. Make sure everything's working properly, because if you've got a good solid foundation, then you know, it's like a building. You know, you can build 100 stories, you know, and you can go take it all as far as you can. But you know, if the foundations and the footings aren't there, once you start building and doing harder stuff, the foundation is going to crumble. And you know, it's the same analogy with brass playing. So make sure the tonguing, the airflow, the lips are working correctly. You know. Cool.
We've had one more question come in. So when we're talking contrasting pieces, are two movements of a sonata sort of contrasting enough? Would they be too similar? My gut feeling would be to have a second thing as well, have something else completely different. But obviously you're much more experienced than I am.
So, you know, if I was going for a Royal Marine Band Service audition, which I did 25 years ago, I hope I'll still get in.
I think you would.
If it was me going, I would play something slow and melodic. I would play something jazzy to show you the different style, and then I'd play something technical. You know, so all those three things, you've shown pretty much every aspect. I mean, not every aspect, but you know, the main sort of things is that you can adapt to different styles, and you know, the techniques there, the sounds there, and yeah, you've got a bit of flair with jazz. You know, I'm not saying, you know, sort of proper hardcore jazz stuff. You know, just, you know, a jazzy piece. You know, it can be anything. You know, that's what I would do.
Oh, thank you. Can we do pieces from exam syllabus like ABRSM? Absolutely. That's probably a good indicator of what level the piece is. So that's quite useful. And then we've got a question about how long should the pieces be? Yeah, easy for us to tell. How long should the pieces be? I think it doesn't really matter how long they are, as long as they show what you want to show. Yeah,
I mean, you know, if you're doing a concerto and the first bit is repeated at the end, you know, we'll stop you. We don't need to listen to that because we've heard it. You know, be prepared for us to stop and move you on in the audition if we think we've heard enough. You know, don't be offended that you haven't got through all three movements of the concerto and your contrasting piece and your slow piece and your technical piece. So yeah, just you know, be flexible. That's part of being a Royal Marine.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Mark, I'm just going to cover a few key things in terms of recruitment, and then we'll see if any other questions sort of come in during that time. So the musicians that we're looking for the Royal Marines Band Service, anywhere between the age of 16 and 32, male or female, everything's open to you. We ask you to be at least grade 5 standard. Now, don't let that put you off. So if you're performing at a much, much higher standard than grade 5 standard, you will spend a lot less time in training, and obviously the better you are, the higher your chances of getting in. When we're talking grades, pianists, we do need pianists to be grade 7 or 8 standard. And then the audition is musical assessments on every instrument that you play. There's also a fitness test that's done online. And an interview that will take place, and then you'll have a briefing about a thing called IMT, Initial Military Training. So when we join the band service, we are joining the Royal Marines, and we go and we do 14 weeks of initial military training. So we do, we put the instruments down for 14 weeks, you don't play at all, and you are taken through all the military training that you'll need before you then get to the Royal Marine School of Music. Other key things are, you can, if you're a musician, but not as a bugler, if you join as a musician, there's a completely free Bachelor's of Music degree that you can do. So while you're being paid and in very cheap accommodation, so the opposite of my music degree, you can study for a Bachelor of Music degree. That's accredited by Plymouth University, and there's also a mostly funded master's degree. So if you've already done a degree, anything to do with music, you can apply to do the Band Service Master's Programme. If you are wanting to start an application, now is the time, if you want to join September 2021. To start it, you need to go to the Royal Navy Careers website. So if you just Google Royal Navy Careers, Royal Marines Band Service, and then you need to click Apply Now, that will give you the first contact with your local Armed Forces Careers Office. And then you go from there. We've had another couple of messages come in. If you've got any other questions, please ask them. I've tried to cover as much as possible without being really boring. Do you audition several times in the week? So at the moment, the way the auditions are working is you have a week that's allocated for your audition, but everything is done online. So you'll be given different appointment times for your different musical assessments. And you'll be given an appointment time for your interview and an appointment time for your fitness test. So you need to be available all week, but you do it all from home. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. There is no swimming test. You just need to tell us whether or not you can swim. Are the auditions face-to-face in July? No, everything this year, because we've already done some auditions in March, just a few, to make it fair through the entire year, and to save any potential issues in terms of spreading coronavirus, we're just keeping everything online for the entirety of 2021. Is the fitness test done via Zoom, or do we need to send a video of us doing it prior to the audition week? No, that's done live on one of the online calls. So we've got our own sort of version of Zoom called Shine, and I think the fitness test is done through that. So you need to be able to play the audio for the fitness test, which you're sent when you're partway through the process. You need to be able to play the audio and run Shine on a different device. And then our physical training instructor from the Royal Marines watches you do it in time to the beep. Hopefully that makes sense. How is the food now? At Livingston, the food is pretty good. When you get to Nelson, I'd say less good, Mark?
Yeah.
Less good at Nelson?
Yeah, it's not as good as Livingston.
No. But you get fed 4 times a day at Livingston, so...
You get 9 o'clockers, don't you?
You do. It's not bad. It's not too expensive, but you do have sort of the option in the accommodation. There's ways for you to prepare some of your own food, so you don't have to eat in the galley every day. I know a lot of people, like my 2nd and 3rd years in training, I never ate in the galley. I prepared my own food.
They've got waves and fridges in the accommodation, and it's really nice, the accommodation, actually.
Yeah, it's much nicer than when I was in training.
Yeah, you're a section commander or house captain, you get to have your own cabin, which is even nicer.
Yeah, it's like fancy university halls if you're a section commander. Yeah. I applied but can't get to my recruiter. I've messaged you on Insta. I haven't got that message, so could you send us an email and I can chase it from this end. So if any of you've got questions that you want me to answer, it's careers@royalmarinesbands.co.uk, and I should be able to try and chase that up from this end, try and get hold of whoever your careers advisor is. I think that's the end of the questions, Mark. Have you got anything else, any other advice you want to pass on?
Great. Yeah, the only advice I would give is, if you're serious about music, just work hard and enjoy what you do, because, music needs to be enjoyed. It's one of life's treasures. So, really enjoy what you do. Work hard, listen. Listening is the key. I can't stress that enough, listening. And, hopefully see some of you down for audition, or see you online this year for audition. Maybe next year we might get to see some of you, if you're not quite old enough this year. Look forward to seeing you all, and thank you for listening to me and my advice for preparation. So it's been a pleasure for inviting me, Amy. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for talking for us. That's everything from us. So Mark's going to end the live now. If you've got any questions, anything else for me, any questions for Mark, anything to do with joining, whether you can join the application process, careers@royalmarinesbands.co.uk. Thanks.
Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.